processing loop is
Okay, we're on.
Okay, cool. And it's like looking for a server to encode, and because there's so much traffic on BitChute, like the
It just
servers
can't
are
get
just
there.
busy around the clock.
Yeah.
And they recommend you upload it like off peak hour. Like if you upload it at 2 in the morning, it'll go through.
What about like Rumble?
Rumble's fine.
I know.
Rumble works
Yeah,
great. I put both the first 2 episodes on Rumble, and like they both worked just fine.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Rumble's fine.
Yeah.
And I guess Rumble was started by Bongino.
Is that true?
Dan Bongino.
Bongino started Parler.
Okay, no.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. It's a white guy.
I probably just saw them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure that is because it's one of the pumped ones. Like if you go under the feed, they're like subscribe to this guy.
You know what? I'm sure Bongino has his hand in it.
Yeah, I don't really care who started it.
Yeah.
If it's a pro free speech alt tech platform,
right.
I'll use it. I don't care.
Yeah. What I was kind of like hoping, it's funny. I guess we'll probably have to go in the reverse direction. What I was kind of thinking and communicating was like I would love to get the alt tech platform following, and because that brings you enough exposure to have an audience that will be loyal outside of traditional media and distribution platforms. So because on the flip side, it's almost like if you start on Twitter, you start on YouTube, like you're fucked because you can't even get off the ground because you'll not even from like a bit. Like, you'll just get drowned to start.
Right.
Because I also sense that the content on BitChute and Rumble stinks.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like I think, and again, I believe in you. I believe in like the content that we produce being better than a lot of the other content out there.
Yeah.
And particularly better in smaller ponds,
right?
Like a Rumble or a BitChute or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, so like I love the alternate platforms, but like, and what I've seen a lot because we started Gab and Minds, BitChute, Rumble is like the content, and this is like goes back to something we talked about like with tech censorship. Yeah, when they purge the radicals and the extremists and the non-desirables. You create like these stratified alternatives where like that's the majority of the content. It's
what like Vote was like you couldn't participate in Vote. And
like what I've found is that
because it was just bullshit.
Yeah, BitChute is a little bit more like Wild West.
Yeah,
there's a bit more variety, but it's mostly kind of people in the tech fringe area.
Right.
Rumble is like it's clear that it was started by people with a certain ideology.
Right.
Like, it's pretty clear that it's meant to be sort of like the right-wing YouTube.
I know.
Or at least just the anti-left YouTube.
Which is kind of
I'm fine with it, but the problem is like it gets filled with BoomerCon takes.
I don't love it either.
And QAnon stuff.
I know.
And like people making 2-hour videos to trust the plan, and it's like it sucks. And I
agree with you. I agree with you.
It sucks, and a lot of like the big content creators that I like who have gone to these platforms is because YouTube censors them.
Yeah.
And even though they might have the same ideology as like people on Rumble, like they still would rather use YouTube.
Yeah.
Censors them, so they have to use Rumble. So I think you're right. I think we need to kind of branch out on YouTube and then kind of translate it once we eventually get banned.
And my example, which is imperfect because I don't want to, So the example I always use is like you have to be able to go to Parler and talk about the Patriots. Right. Like you have to be able to go to these. If these are truly going to be alternatives, they cannot simply be the conservative or the Republican or the GOP stream platform. It's like I don't want like that's bullshit too. Like you said, I don't want. And even for that matter, even if it were, Michael Malice or Peterson, or even if it were voices that I like, I still want a free platform, which means you have tolerance across the subject spectrum and the entertainment spectrum and the content spectrum, and it's not just here's where I can talk about lower taxes and traditional gender roles. It's like, no, I want to talk about like art and culture and bullshit and funny stuff and whatever, like, but not be censored for being actually funny. Like,
and I think there's another half of this, like along with the first half of like the people who have formed or have started using things like Rumble are more on the right, or people on BitChute have been purged, so they're more anti-establishment, and they create that kind of content. But at the same time, if we're talking about like why aren't people of differing ideologies using them more, you know, if we want to dissect that, I think one, as we've seen, they're much more programmed to react strongly to religious content or to opposing political views or to pro-Trump content or anything like that. And on the other side, they've also been like programmed that this stuff is like Nazis. That this is evil, that Gab and BitChute and Rumble and all these places are hive minds for the alt-right. That they are where white supremacists go to plan, and we can't know what dangerous things they might be doing because we don't have oversight on them. So like a lot of these people, it's
what
not
are you
like,
doing in your cabin? You must be making a bomb.
Exactly. It's like a lot. If we want to talk about like why lefties don't use alt tech, I mean the main reason is they don't need to, because the main reason is they don't need to.
Absolutely.
Because like. Google, who owns YouTube, is happy to endorse their fringe conspiracy theories,
and it's a positive feedback. I know I kind of hate this term now, but it is an echo. Like every piece of content you participate with gets applauded.
Right.
So you're further encouraged to continue participating from a left of center perspective.
And what they've done over the last, I don't even know how long, maybe decade, is they've created an ecosystem where there's a lot of profit in that. Where there's a lot of profit in someone with the platform, whether it's legacy media or online.
Well, it's woke capitalism because now you have a million likes, and it's a great opportunity for fucking Charmin to communicate to you because you have an audience that's not, you have an engaged audience.
It goes beyond just sponsorship. I mean, you have examples where people find out that companies employ someone who's pro-Trump or pro-Proud Boys, and then they start a Twitter campaign tweeting, and this is how they phrase it when they get people taken down, getting fired from their jobs. Or when they get them get their companies canceled from MasterCard. Is they say they will write a letter to ABC Credit Company and say, are you aware that your company is financing a white supremacist supporting organization? And like they essentially they bluff. The companies just go with
fold.
Right? They just fold immediately. And it goes beyond just like the activists, and most of these people are just like losers on Twitter who have nothing better to do.
Absolutely.
But people like Hassan Abi, who's like fucking idiot, and then a bunch of other idiots. The ones that actually have platforms that can like make business connections in tech and in media. There's money to be made there.
Absolutely.
There's interviews to do. There's collaborations. There's you can play fucking All of Us with AOC. You can do all of these things to like raise your brand and your net worth. But more importantly, like what?
Well, and then you can sell sensitivity training to the corporation who
that
did
was where I was going
That's
next.
the racism industrial complex.
You can sell sensitivity training to the corporations, which are now being backed by the Fed. They're lending out millions and millions of dollars for these kinds of programs that Trump canceled, and I'm sure will get uncanceled.
I mean, it's the problem.
Coming time.
It's the problem when the stuff isn't legislated. It's executive ordered.
I mean, I believe one of the first executive orders of the first 43 that Biden did was reinstating critical race theory training and banning the 1776 initiative.
I'm pretty sure that's right.
I think it was like one of the first 10 he did. So. There's a whole ecosystem for it. So they don't need to go to alt tech.
Right.
And if they do go to alt tech, they've been programmed with these talking points that like this is a meeting place for white supremacists. And if you do go on to these sites and like you scroll through the explore page for long enough because because you're either you're new and you don't have an algorithm set.
Right.
And they don't manipulate their algorithms in the same manner
that's right.
that like Google and YouTube do. So it really kind of is sort of a mixed bag that you dump on the table.
That's
and
right.
Kind of like sort out the different channels.
And
like if you go through 50 or 100 channels on BitChute or Rumble, like you're gonna find a couple Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
Also, 50,
real
Nazis.
Yeah.
But also, 10, 15 years ago on YouTube, you would have the same thing.
Sure.
Right? Probably even less time than that. Which is okay. That's sure Nazis are bad, but at the same time, if we're on a platform with hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of videos. And you sort through 50 or 100 and you only find a couple Nazis. That's a pretty good ratio. You would think, right?
Yes.
And you would think, okay, even if it's 5 out of 50. That's still not enough of a Nazi presence on an anonymous internet video board to necessitate censorship.
And it's also so not only that, it is also not so overwhelming that it should drive you to change behavior like leaving the platform.
Yeah.
Or B, participating in Nazi stuff.
And it's even more right.
That's
it's even more.
It's not very convincing.
Yeah. It's even more minuscule than that. And when I say Nazi, I mean there are some real Nazis, but most of what I mean aren't people who are like I love
Wilson?
Hitler. What?
You mean like Woodrow Wilson?
Yeah, right, exactly. Not people who are like I love Hitler, Fourth Reich, kill all non-whites, but people are like, no, I just think like ethnic autonomy is cool,
right?
And like they're attacking white people publicly, and I don't really like that.
Yeah,
and, like, if you say that in the mainstream, you will get labeled a Nazi.
Absolutely.
Right?
Oh yeah, it's a meaning. It is truly meaningless.
Yeah.
I mean the Nazi term, which is a real problem. Which is a problem historically because context in words and language matter, and one of the ways that Nazism gets propagated is when the seriousness and the weight of that terminology diminishes, and you blur the lines between true hardcore dyed in the wool evil racist bigotry, but you lump that in with ethno-nationalism, even, which I still don't agree with.
Right.
But because you've blurred those lines to the degree that they're indistinguishable, and because you've pushed them closer together, and because it's done at volume, the people who are now maybe sort of safe, non-violent ethno-nationalists have no reason to not believe that they themselves aren't violent actual Nazis.
Exactly, and they're not having conversations with opposing views that might serve to de-radicalize some of those.
That's right,
groups,
exactly.
Right?
And
like
they say, well, these people are not even.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the true institutionalization thing.
There was a comic I saw. I forget who drew it. He's like a big Twitter guy, and it's a 4-panel comic, and it's like stick figures in school, and it's the teacher on the board with the picture of the kid saying, "I'm evil," and then on the paper he's writing, "I'm evil." And on his paper he gets a D+ that says, "You're evil." And then the 4th panel is him putting on a Death Squad helmet and saying, "I'm evil." Like, if you take these people and you ostracize them and you tell them that they're evil their whole lives,
that's right.
You make them follow programming that they always have this capacity for violence and discrimination and oppression.
Yeah.
Like, sure, you're gonna make some soy boy Lego cocks. Yeah, you're gonna make some of those.
Yeah.
But like, you're gonna also make like some Oklahoma City bombers.
That's right.
Right. Like you're gonna like really you're gonna damage a whole generation of people by telling them that they're damaged.
I mean,
right?
if we and I know you feel this way, and I feel this way too, even though I didn't articulate it very well in the last episode, previous episode, I should say. If you put a petty criminal into a federal institution, you're going to turn him into a hardcore.
Yeah, you put someone with drug crimes and with armed robbers and murderers.
You're going to turn him into a hardcore. Yeah. You put and this is what happens when you kind of create these online ghettos.
Yeah,
is you charge someone with a petty crime.
Yep.
Of a sort of nebulous label of a Nazi, and then you push them to places where they can only be associated with real Nazis.
And moreover...
and you do institutionalize them.
Yeah, and moreover, in these spaces, like, a lot, oftentimes they get dominated by vocal minorities. Like, we see that with the establishment, right? We see that with the far left. Like, and we not the establishment, right? The Trump, right?
Yeah,
I used the opposite term of what I wanted to use. But anyways, the same thing happens in, like, these extremist right-wing communities where, like, the most vocal minorities, the real Nazis, are more prolific in terms of the content they produce and the dedication that they have.
Yeah, definitely.
They're actually committed to their ideology.
Absolutely.
And they're going to mock and ridicule the guys who are half in.
Correct.
Like, so...
This is the institutionalization
so, like,
process.
A guy makes a video...
You got to go shank that guy across the prison yard.
Exactly.
And if you don't, then you're fucked.
It's the same thing.
It really is the same thing.
Yes. So, like, these guys who made a video on, like, hey, I didn't get a promotion because of diversity requirements, and then I spoke out about it and I got fired, and, like, he gets purged, and so he goes onto one of these other sites, and he's with all these other people, and he's like, yeah, this is terrible. And they're like, yeah, well, have you thought about white genocide?
Yeah, that's right.
Like, have you thought about the Jews? Have you thought about, like, have you ever thought about all these things that we believe are the source of all your problems?
That's right.
And, like, they just fall down the rabbit hole.
And they also can't go back.
Yeah.
Because that Scarlet Letter has already been burned into your chest. You can't then take you can't then say on a traditional legacy platform, you cannot then you can't even take that argument to a place where it can be appropriately refuted.
Right.
So you can't even falsify their narrative because they won't let you participate.
No.
So this is where, again, this radicalization still happens. And I'll keep hammering this analogy into the ground. There is a true prison yard. You actually can't even go to the guards and say, hey, they're going to kill me unless I shank this other guy. Because there's a physical wall. And literally now there's an actual wall because you'll get kicked off Twitter. You'll get kicked off YouTube. So you can't even, you cannot cross-pollinate to become de-radicalized. They won't let you.
No, they won't let you back. And the more of an association you have with these alternate platforms, the higher up you are on their hit list.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think we got to be careful too, because like a lot of what we're saying is the exact same argument that the left uses to try to shut these places down.
Sure.
Is that no, you don't understand. These Nazis will all get together. They'll turn other people into Nazis. There'll be more Nazis. We won't be able to give any oversight. But like the answer to that would be don't kick them off Twitter.
Yeah.
Like the answer, like if you really want to solve that problem, if you really want to solve the problem of forcing people into dark internet alleyways, the answer is to not force them into the alleyways.
Well, and I would go even a step further to say from a postmodern rules for radicals playbook, that's a feature, not a bug.
No, it is a feature.
This is a so to go
the desired outcome.
Yeah,
when we've talked about that before, manufactured consent. Right, like they're manufacturing consent amongst the general public to purge these alternative spaces.
Exactly.
It's all part, and that's why I wanted to kind of pause because I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, we're actually kind of just like saying the exact same shit that they say. But I knew we were saying it for different reasons.
This is a strategy.
Yeah,
this is a playbook in order to get Parler pulled off of Amazon.
You strengthen yourself and you weaken your opponents at the same time.
Absolutely.
Control the discourse.
So you can. I used to kind of balk at the notion that, particularly in a political space, kind of your opponents accuse you of what they themselves are doing. I used to think that was kind of a immature. Well, not immature, but I didn't think that was right. But now I'm becoming more and more convinced that is. That's more right than I thought it was.
Yeah.
That these are tactical actions.
Yes.
And there are bizarro mirror images that's and it's like calling Antifa.
Yeah,
that's the best example.
I mean, if the left didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have standards at all.
Right.
To be cliche. But no, it's a feature, not a bug.
Yeah, this is what
the average person who.
So I'm okay talking like this,
right?
You know what I mean? I don't think we're validating them.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah.
And this ties into like the hierarchy of big tech and leftist discourse right now. Like the people with their pronouns in their bio and a bunch of meme emojis who fucking subtweet people all day and like try to get people fired. Like I don't really think they understand any of this. They're just like, these people are bad, get rid of them.
Well, and it's also fun.
Yeah, it's fun. In-group, out-group stuff, right? But like the people who are controlling these things do. Like
definitely.
Like Jack Dorsey's lawyer who was on Rogan, she knows these things.
Absolutely.
Like these people all know these things.
No,
like
these are central planners.
Yeah, the priests of the cathedral know what they're doing.
And
like the executive producers for CNN that like feed into the mouthpiece for them to talk about the alt-right on alt-tech, like they know what they're doing. It's not just like, it's not opportunistic knee-jerk reactions to things that they think will make them money. Although that is part.
That's some of it.
That is part of it. But it serves a greater purpose.
Well, and there, I have to be kind of careful when not careful because I give a shit about, whatever. Because in order to, speak, you have to be able to think. The people who are at the top, like you said, the priests of the cathedral, I'm very confident that they are not lying. and that they believe that they are virtuous in this space. I do not think there's a mustache twirling.
I think it's a mixed bag. I think here's
let me finish.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, keep going.
I do not think that there's a mustache twirling element to this in aggregate, but that's way worse.
Yeah,
that's way worse than a villain who is looking to win a game. The dyed-in-the-wool believers. If you had, it's kind of like it's like Myers-Briggs, or it's these are deeply ingrained biological and genetic personality features. That predispose people to virtuosity in their belief that controlling other people, in virtuosity in controlling other people.
Yes, for their own
and good. That's way worse.
Yeah, I think I agree in a sense. I think it's a mixed bag. I think that there are people who actually are so narcissistic.
Yeah.
And so detached from like basic reality.
Yeah.
Like in the lives of regular people. Or like they actually believe what they're saying.
This is what I mean.
I think a good example is AOC.
I agree.
I think she actually believes what she says.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think not to say she doesn't deliberately lie and she's not an actor, because I think she's one of the best. She's the lefty Trump, right? She's really good.
Yeah.
Just in the sense she gets the marketing.
She definitely
gets the marketing. She gets the social media. She gets the way to reach out to her electorate, and she understands that if she doesn't pull through on some of her promises, or if it gets looked up that she wasn't actually right about a few things,
or wasn't at the Capitol,
wasn't at the Capitol, was in a different building 7.5 minutes away via tunnel.
It is terrific.
Getting called out by Nancy Mace, one of the new reps whose office was in the same hallway.
I know, it's
was against the insurrection. This isn't like a lady who said no, the insurrection was great and AOC's lying.
Right.
She's like, no, the insurrection was terrible and it's one of the worst things that ever happened in America, and I think it should never happen again. And AOC's lying.
Yeah.
But like which
are people we need.
Right. So I think AOC I can't tell when her and Rashida when they had a fucking a safe space for Congress.
Yeah, that's right.
Congress used to try to murder each other. They used to try to beat each other to death with sticks.
Canes, I know.
And now you have a safe space to talk about your feelings?
Yeah, it's better.
What the fuck?
Yeah, that's
dude.
Right. Yeah.
What do we pay you for?
Yeah,
Go to your regular job.
Yeah,
Go to your regular job where you make $60,000 a year and walk up to your boss and say, you know what?
Yeah.
Today we all decided we're not going to get any work done.
Yeah, that's right.
But we're going to sit around and talk about how scared we were last week when a homeless guy pissed on the bushes.
Yeah.
See what happens.
That's right.
See what happens to you.
Yeah,
and in this day and age, you probably will get the fucking day
That's
off.
right. Yeah.
Might be a good hustle for you.
It will happen less often in the private sector, but you're right.
But anyways, I think that a degree of them are just deranged narcissists who smell their own farts and think it's good.
Yes.
Right? And then some of them are actual sociopathic liars.
Yeah, that's right.
Some of them who really don't care.
Some of that's right.
Don't care about left, right, don't care about Republican, Democrat, don't care about politics. This is just a means to power.
Power for power's sake.
Power for power's sake.
Yeah.
Money for money's sake.
Yeah.
Get me as much as I can. Get me and my family as much as I can, and I don't care what happens.
Yeah.
And I think you're right in that more people actually have this, more government people have this incredible degree of narcissism.
Yeah.
And they think they're untouchable.
Yeah.
They have no accountability.
Absolutely, yeah. Because they mostly are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's only going to get worse because what January 6th showed us, and what the Wall Street Bets thing showed us, and what a number of other, and what the 150 days of riots showed us.
Yeah.
Is that like violence has been politicized.
Oh yeah.
People have been radicalized, and it's been demonstrated that if it actually comes to a violent confrontation with the population, the government is fucked.
Yeah. Oh,
they're fucked.
Like
what did they do in Portland? They did nothing. They held up in the courthouse, and yeah, I understand a lot of that was political stuff because the mayor's a cock and fucking the state governor, she's a bitch, and they're all lefty crazies. But like at the same time, like you had mobs of hundreds of poorly armed people, by the way. They didn't have good weapons.
No
training, no nothing. They had Molotovs and fireworks.
Right.
And they sieged a federal building for like 40 days.
Yeah.
The government could have mowed them down at any point in time.
Right.
Like at any point in time, they could have turned on the machine guns, but like it's not that easy.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
It's really not.
Like the soldiers won't follow the orders.
That's
right. Like it's not that easy.
Yeah.
That the 6th, a bunch of idiots stormed the Capitol. They were let in. The cops didn't do anything.
That's
5 people died. 4 of them were protesters.
Yeah.
And they still won.
Right.
Right? Like, now we can talk about the political ramifications and like the crackdown the government's going to do with domestic terrorism and spying and surveillance, and that's all terrible.
Yeah, yeah.
But like the takeaway from the 6th is, if a bunch of people just show up and walk into the building, there isn't anything you can do about it.
Yeah, that's right.
There isn't anything you can do about it.
Yeah.
So like if in 6 months, say the currency crashes and everyone's starving, there's nothing they can do about it.
Yeah.
Short of shooting people on live television.
Right.
And like they're not going to drone people, they're not going to send in the tanks.
Right.
Like none of that's going to happen.
Well, this is
and to get like really far out with it, like what do you think happens if a civil war kicks off? People storm DC, lynch the government, and then the government starts drone bombing people in the Midwest. Foreign intervention.
Yeah.
Do you think that like all these people that we have fucked around with for 100 years are just going to sit back and not get a taste?
That's right.
Like, I would.
I would. Or the fact that we feed the rest of the world.
Yeah.
They're going to say, oh shit, if the American government is, South Africa style murdering the farmers, we don't have any food.
Right. Right.
We feed the whole fucking world.
And this isn't to say that I think that this is like good. Like,
no. Yeah.
I don't think
so. No, it's not.
But
it's not good.
I would prefer a peaceful divorce, velvet underwear.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And if there was some kind of violent civil confrontation, I would not welcome foreign invaders coming in to make peace.
No, certainly not.
Just like I've never welcomed or never advocated for American troops going somewhere and bringing peace to some shithole in the middle of nowhere. Right. But it's a possibility.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And I'm getting way off topic, but the whole point is the elite controllers are terrified.
Yeah.
They're terrified. These are not the actions of someone who's in control.
That's right. Yeah, and which gives me, a lot of hope.
Yeah, that's like why I can rant all day about the fucking apocalypse and still be relatively white-pilled.
Sure.
Because if their power was absolute, they wouldn't need to censor people.
Right.
Like they wouldn't need
They
wouldn't need to do high-profile arrests.
Absolutely. Yeah,
they wouldn't need to purge their opponents from Congress.
Correct.
If they were right, they wouldn't need to do this.
Yeah, that's right.
But they are.
Yeah, yeah.
And the mask has totally fallen. There were people on, I can't remember if it was MSNBC or CNN, but they were talking about a conversation between a former, I want to say, Defense Department official under Obama, who was comparing the insurrectionists. He was comparing the insurrectionists on January 6th and Donald Trump. They were comparing Donald Trump to a terrorist leader who was inciting violence during the Arab Spring.
Right.
That they killed with a drone strike.
Right.
And they were doing it with glee.
Yeah.
And we're comparing these people killed with drone strikes to Trump and the insurrectionists. And it's like, all right, what conclusion are you trying to draw?
Yeah, yeah.
Are you trying to say like we should have droned Trump
exactly
before he should incite people?
Right.
Are you saying we should drone people going forward? Because they meet your team of lawyers' definitions of domestic terrorists. There's a lot of people because people don't like care, right, about like brown people that die in a country they can't pronounce.
Yep.
Right? Is that lawyers were making all these decisions on drone strikes. There are people who like wrote books out of the Obama administration that they'd be in the Situation Room and it would be
John Yoon.
Yeah, it would be like 5 politicians and 20 lawyers.
Yeah, yeah.
And maybe a few generals.
Right.
And the lawyers would debate for hours on the legal ramifications of doing certain drone strikes.
Right.
And that teams of highly paid lawyers whose names you will never know were responsible for a lot of the tactical munitions loads dropped in the Middle East.
Oh, sure.
So like, if that definition of terrorist gets expanded to domestic terrorists, and if they use it in the same way to justify the same kind of actions, like, does that mean lawyers in D.C. now get to decide to drone strike people in St. Louis because he's a former business leader who lost everything and started rallying people and marching in the streets? Like, is he going to get drone striked because he says the N-word on Twitter?
I want to get to that, but briefly, it's why I'm white-pilled on this.
Yeah.
Because there's no way.
Yeah, no, it won't happen.
Yeah,
no, all this is all fear porn. It won't happen.
And it's actually it's not even just fear porn. It's kind of wonderfully inspiring that we do. It has been kicked through the mud. And actually, it's funny. I listened to a Michael Malice podcast recently.
Oh yeah.
And I now do really agree with you about that. There was a good phrase that he used, and he heard it on Twitter. But it was like, the Constitution is gun-free zones.
Yeah.
Is it gun-free zone for conservatives?
Yes.
I'm totally all in.
Yes.
You're very right about this.
Yes.
You're really right about this.
Yes.
But anyway, the point is, we do have the vestigial organ of the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
And we do have 200 years of the Second Amendment.
Yes.
And we do have
400 million guns.
Yeah, and we do have a legacy draft with which created a martial culture. Mm-hmm. And we do have masculine, as much as it's as much as it's eroded, and as much as the powers that be are doing their best to destroy it, we do have individualism. We do have rough men, and the idea that practically, and again, it's the silliness of the argument about, well, who cares if you have an AR-15 if the government has drones and nuclear weapons, and it's like, that's so wrong, man.
Yeah, I mean, so it's wrong.
The state of Missouri will never be taken over.
No,
ever.
It's wrong in a practical sense, right? Yeah. Because if we go into a practical sense, that you don't use drones to enforce curfews, you don't use drones to search houses, you don't use drones to enforce roadblocks. You don't use drones to deliver food. Right. You don't use drones for all these things, right? Yeah. That practically you could never use in a civilian crackdown in a martial law scenario, and from a from a more philosophical perspective, people say, oh, well, you have all your guns. They still crack down. They have gun-free zones. They'll go to jail if you defend yourself, yada, yada, yada. Why do you even bother? And it's an example, just because he said Michael Malice, I was thinking about it earlier. Someone tweeted at him, because he was talking in a show about how he did call the police once, because he had an ex outside of his house with threatening him for 6 hours, so he called the police. And he caught a lot of heat because he's very anti-cop.
Sure.
And he says, I don't think you get it. If someone locks you into prison, you don't have to refuse the food.
Yeah, that's right.
If someone has locked you into a deal that you don't want to be in.
Yeah.
And they offer you food, and you can choose to protest and die.
Correct.
And not eat the food, or you can eat the food and try and figure out a way out of this later. You're going to eat the food. Right?
Well,
it's a similar scenario.
And I'm still not, and we disagree on this, which is okay. And we've hashed it out in previous episodes, and we will in the future. Mm-hmm. I'm still not black-pilled enough on the police as an institution to not leverage them in appropriate scenarios.
Okay.
I mean, there are scenarios where I would call the police.
Right.
There are no scenarios where I.
Yeah, and I mean, here, that's so. It becomes like a.
They are fleetingly rare. And they are mostly... Sorry, let me just finish this because it's important. They are mostly from a unfortunate playing by the rules in what would occur from sort of a record-keeping and procedural standard after whatever such event would occur.
Right.
So my ability to defend myself is not predicated on calling the police.
Right.
My ability to defend someone else is not predicated on calling the police. My ability to interact with neighbors or settle disputes is not a reflection of the police. But the record keeping and inoculation from the justice system to the best of my ability would involve the police in some way.
Yeah, I mean, so I get that, and I am not saying that there shouldn't be some sort of peacekeeping body. And my argument is that the current U.S. police consistently violates the civil and, in some cases, human rights of citizens, regardless of color, right?
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I do agree.
And that, although there are examples of good cops, it's very much anecdotal, right? And it becomes I knew someone with COVID and they were on a ventilator for 3 weeks and it was my dad, so it's a big deal. And you're like, all right, well, all the numbers in aggregate, when you look at it, show that that's really not the case, right? I'm sorry that you had this really bad experience with your family members getting sick, but when you look at the overall data, it's not as high.
I hear what you're saying. Let me push back on that a little bit.
But no, I have a second piece of this. So this is not to say like I'm jumping in with the left and saying all cops are bad. They're structures of white supremacy.
Right.
A white cop is 16 times more likely to be killed by a black suspect than the other way around.
That's right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, right.
I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
Of the unarmed people who got killed in 2020, the majority of them were not black.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like if we want to actually go into the stats,
it's actually nearly statistically impossible for you as a black person to be murdered by a white.
It's
cop.
very low.
Yeah.
It's very, very low.
Right.
Most of the cops who have murdered black people were Hispanic. Just saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Or at least a decent enough number where there's not any statistical significance.
And most people aren't murdered by the cops.
Correct. Correct. So I'm not trying to say like
like
the lefty argument against the police. I'm trying to make like a constitutional argument against the police in terms of like the rights. They swear an oath to the Constitution. And they're supposed to uphold it. They confiscate guns. They lock people up for fucking protesting, and they do a lot of they spy on you, and they do a lot of other shit. That completely violates your constitutional rights.
And I'm not invalidating that perspective.
And I can sit here and say, and we can sit here and we can say the Constitution is like a gun-free zone for conservatives. I didn't take an oath to the Constitution and do a job where I get paid taxpayer money to theoretically uphold it, which they don't do.
Yeah, yeah.
So like I feel like I have a little more flexibility on it in that regard.
Oh, you certainly do.
Right.
No,
my big concern is that I recognize there are some good police officers. I recognize there are some bad police officers. I also recognize the capability for humans, once they've become part of an institution and become part of a unit, to prioritize themselves and that unit and institution over the common good.
Oh, it's right? They're guilds.
So
they are guilds.
Yeah, they're guilds.
Yeah, that's.
And if you want to,
I don't dispute that. At all.
And you know, if someone broke into my house, I'd get my gun, first of all. But second of all, I'd call the cops after. I'd call, because I'm not going to... First of all, I have neither the time, the resources, the will, or the legal ability to go out and find who broke into my house.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, if I was to just hit the streets and start shaking people down and try to find out who broke into my house, I'd probably get arrested eventually.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Yep.
So I would call the cops.
Yep.
Having said that, if you go through history, when people would come into power, when they needed to enforce their will, they would just recruit the local police. You know who was responsible for a lot of the exterminations in the Holocaust in Eastern Europe?
Oh, yeah, that's
the police department.
There's an excellent...
The police department.
There's a really good book. I forget it.
I think I'm referencing the same book.
Yeah. Yes.
It's all primary sources.
It's basically just a group of police officers who were turned into Nazis.
Yeah.
And
you don't even have to go to they did the same thing in the Soviet Union.
But it's also not because they're just police.
No.
This is not, and this is
well, I mean, we don't have knowledge. We don't say there's 1,000 police officers in this country. We don't know we know how many of them were registered National Socialists. We don't know how many of them were regular people that decided to put on the armband and execute people for money. Like, that's one... You should know this.
True.
You should know this because you're a Peterson guy.
Yeah.
Like, when he talks to his freshman classes, like, you would have all been Nazis.
Well, this is my
point.
Like,
you all...
This is my point is
think you wouldn't have been.
My point... So this is my point. My point is this is not... And again, I know I'm good... I'm just in a roundabout... I'm really steelman... I'm really helping you steelman the argument that we both share. Yeah. Is actually what I'm kind of doing. My point is, it is not only or exclusively the specific guild of the police officers who will
it's not endemic to just the institution of the police.
That's right.
It's not just that.
No. I mean, and like you said, those same lawyers guilds did the same, did the legal paperwork, to allow the people to actually, like you said, that it became legal to, round up Jews,
exactly.
So no, we're really similar on this. Yeah. I think we have like slightly different instincts, but like that's okay.
I think we have the same position, and the same position a lot of people would have is that like if the police took a more active role in preserving their oath to the Constitution, and standing up to the brass and institutions that run them, they'd have much more support.
Yeah, that's right.
They would have much more support.
Right.
And if you go to high crime areas, if you go to bad neighborhoods and you talk to people who live there who run businesses, they'll say, we need more police.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Or we need better police.
Yeah,
They don't say we need no police.
Absolutely,
we need better police, we need more police, we need people who live around here. And with the way it's all changed, like most cops don't live in the city or county that they serve.
Absolutely.
Right? Not in big cities, anyway.
Yeah, no, because why would you? And if you're a Brockton cop, why the fuck would you live in Brockton?
Yeah, I mean, it's very convenient that the people on the left that want to defund and abolish the police also want gun control.
I know. Yeah.
So they don't want you to have the ability to defend yourself.
I know. It's yeah.
And they don't want to get rid of police entirely. They want to remove the current police and replace it with their own.
Yeah, this is
their own peacekeeping body. Whatever, a bunch of fucking buzz cuts with baseball bats and shit. Like,
yeah.
And they don't want you to be able to stop them when they walk by your house and they say, "Hey, we saw you had an American flag and you're playing country music."
Right.
Or you're white and you're listening to rap music.
Yeah.
Or you're culturally, we noticed you're having a Cinco de Mayo party.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So, like, okay. I want to switch directions a little bit, but again, this is almost what this is where I come back to all the time.
And if I could choose between the lefty moral police, no police,
right,
or reforming the one we have now, I'd probably choose reform.
Yeah.
Although it seems like a very tall order at this point in time.
I agree with that.
Because I think what we're going to see is only more of a push to further, what would be the word? Neuter the police force, right?
Right.
They're gonna increase the sensitivity trainings. They're going to start purging people. We already saw it with the head of the Pentagon is freezing all military operations to dress down and look for cases of extremism. You're not allowed to have 3%er, Pepe the Flag, or other militia patches if you're in the special forces now. And that will only extend to law enforcement. Right. Like it'll start with the feds. It'll start with the FBI and the CIA and all these people, which they won't have to do because they all fucking work for them already anyway. And then it will eventually go to the police level. One of the things that Biden and his team put in all of his campaign promises, half of which he's not going to keep, like every politician, right?
Yeah, it's not unique.
Was a new federal policing authority, some sort of federal oversight body that would help to coordinate and oversee all the police departments, because one of the big problems...
that sounds like a real thing that will happen.
Well, I've said this to my friend I was telling you about before the show, he's a vet, he's a cop, he's like, we already have that.
Almost universally just needs to enforce the laws.
It already exists, just not in the kind of complete federalized authoritarian way they want it to.
Yeah, that's right.
It already exists vis-a-vis funding and politics and police unions.
Absolutely.
There are already measures in place for the feds to have oversight to at least a small level.
Yeah.
Not so much when you have certain states with county sheriffs that say, fuck you, we're a gun sanctuary. Fuck you, I'm deporting all the illegal immigrants.
Missouri.
Missouri, Florida, Texas, Arizona. A lot of these states with New Jersey, Virginia now, because Virginia passed their gun control, West Virginia, a lot of these states where the compromised people get in and start passing all these laws with the 51-49% majority, and then the county sheriff stand up to them. So that's good.
Yeah.
If they are able to get a more federalized police oversight system, then whatever standards they're using to purge the military and the federal agencies of wrongthink will eventually be applied to law enforcement.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think most cops are just going to quit.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to, keep doing it.
They'll just not be replaced.
Yeah. Well, those are the good cops. So, if we want to talk about the good cops...
Oh, sure. You're totally right. You're definitely right about this.
Who won't do red flag laws, who won't shut down bars and restaurants, who won't bend to the Twitter mob, who won't do mask orders, who won't... And whatever, although I don't think it will, once pandemic craziness goes away, there'll be a new thing that the establishment wants the cops to enforce.
There's another state of emergency somewhere.
And if all of the cops who are willing to stand up and say, no, I'm not going to do that, are purged, then all we have left are the ones who just shut up and take their paycheck. At least
civil disobedience works.
Yeah, I'm more of a Malcolm X guy than a Martin Luther King Jr. guy. But there is some credence to the idea.
I'm more of a Martin Luther King guy.
Yeah, there is some credence to the idea. I think they both had flaws. I think that in the times they were in, MLK's view was the more effective one. Right? I still like Malcolm X.
And so do I.
Yeah. But King there's some real credence to the idea of I'm going to make people watch.
Absolutely.
As young black folks in suits and ties and church dresses.
That's right.
Get hit with, who just say, I would like a plate of food, please. Who get fire hosed and attacked with dogs.
Absolutely.
And beaten by the police. And he made everybody watch on live TV.
Dude, Martin Luther King was a fucking G.
Brilliant.
I mean, holy moly. It's crazy how awesome.
You're right. It's
good God.
It gets off our police thing, but
the nuts
it's ironic
that guy.
It's ironic that all the people that lionize Martin Luther King, as they rightfully should, are
yes,
unfamiliar.
I hear you.
Are unfamiliar with
point.
how he was hounded by the FBI and the U.S. government his entire life.
Absolutely.
And they were they wrote letters to him convincing him to kill himself.
Yep.
Otherwise, we're going to expose you and tell your wife and all this other stuff. And they did it for years.
Yep.
And now the FBI are cool.
Absolutely.
Now the FBI are the good guys trying to stop the fascists and keep you safe.
That's right.
Like, even though they have consistently in their entire lifetime attempted to attack the very leftist figures that you deify.
That's right. Yeah. No, it's so. All right, so I'm gonna always keep going back to speech.
Yeah.
So, and this is what I think is kind of interesting, and I'm maybe a little more radical.
And that's why I'd like to have my friend on, because he has experience in law enforcement.
Sure.
And he's a bit more of a dissenter, I would say, than most of the cops that I know or have met. And from what he's told me about his line of work.
Yeah. So do you know the whole thing with Morgan Wallen this week? Morgan Wallen's a country.
Oh, he said the N-word, right? Someone released a drunken rant of him saying the N-word or something. He got Mel Gibson's or Hasselhoff.
Not even.
No.
Well, so yes, but that's not what he did.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So it's all right. So and I'm gonna come around for a minute. I let you go. You let me go.
Yeah.
For a minute.
Yeah.
So I watched the movie. It's okay. No, I'm just fucking. Yeah. Have you seen American Honey with Shia LaBeouf?
Parts. I didn't. I tried to. I didn't watch the whole thing. I got bored.
Fair enough. I saw it.
I'm not saying it's a bad movie.
Yeah, and that's okay. And you can say.
Yeah. I like Shia LaBeouf. I like his stuff. He makes really good movies.
He's a real artist.
He really is.
There may be. I'll take very short bandwidth.
Peanut Butter Falcon was great.
He's great. Now, again, I know and acknowledge he has some issues.
Yeah.
There was like a sexual assault thing that he recently, which may or may not, anyway, I acknowledge that. And what I'm going to say is fucked up, but this is how I feel. And this is where I'm, I almost like, I don't like that he sexually assaulted anyone. Mm-hmm. Obviously.
Well, we don't know he did yet.
And we also don't know, so that's the other side.
Still
we don't know he did. Yeah. Although reading a little bit about his backstory and know, like, he's a true artist, a real eccentric. Mm-hmm. He's bleeding with talent.
Yes.
And he has a fucked up, disastrous childhood.
Yes.
Did
you watch Honey Boy?
Yeah. He's so.
What do you think the scene with all the pies was about?
Dude, he's tough, man.
What do you guys think? The scene with when a bunch of old guys just hit him in the face with cream pies. What do you guys think that's about?
This guy has some real demons.
Yeah.
And it's why I'm a appreciator of art, is because from that tragedy, real art gets made. But anyway, but I'm going to circle back. So Shia LaBeouf, I kind of like that he's so fucking tortured because it produces great, interesting art. He's really of a few people I can think of who's like a real artist that I respect for artist's sake and not a celebrity cult of personality.
Yep.
So, having said that, so I watched American Honey last night, and it's great. It's in my.
I have to check it out.
I'm a big movie guy, and it's a piece of art. It's shot really well in an interesting way. Mm-hmm. It's really genuine. Now, the reason I bring this up in the context of Morgan Wallen. So, American Honey is basically about a group of these misfit Southern, all over, broken home children who are selling magazine subscriptions across the South, basically just to survive, keep the party going. It's kind of run by this one woman. They have these kind of Verk vans, and they're drinking, smoking, partying the whole time, selling magazine subscriptions. And it's a brilliant insight into what actual real poverty is, and not noble poverty of bullshit Hollywood.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is, I think actually the main character, the
Wait a minute, are you telling me that not all impoverished families are a single dad whose the wife died of cancer with a daughter that he just doesn't know how to raise because he works so hard to keep the family going?
Correct.
Are you telling me that's not what real poverty's like?
It's not it's not all the Jodes. It's not all Grapes of Wrath, and I fucking love Grapes of Wrath, by the way. But it's not all poverty. No, it's a real look at how children. And there's some degree of it's not their fault. It's about how children are basically abandoned by fuck-up shithead adults and how they fucking ruin people's lives. But anyway, where I want to come back to Wallen is Everyone except actually the protagonist, the co-star with Shia LaBeouf, who's quite good too. And I don't know the actress's name. She's mixed race in some ways. She's something like that. But everyone else is white.
Okay.
And they use the N-word all the time.
Oh, wow.
In their speech because the N-word is not condoned by race. It's condoned by class and circumstance. And now this is wrong in a lot of ways. High school is probably filled with a ton of kids that use the N-word colloquially because it's in all of their media. It's used by all of the people that they like and respect. Rap stars. Athletes. Yeah. So they use the N-word. Kind of not the hard R, but the A. So that's a piece of it too. And they use that word, dare I say, endearingly.
Well,
and they.
I think
do
now,
you disagree with this?
So I think now
because I really am convinced.
So
about this.
I think now they probably use it less.
Probably
circumstances.
You're probably right.
We were in high school.
Call it 7 years
ago.
Call it 7 years ago.
Right. And also, remember, so I'm mixed race, right? My mom is half. Right. My dad is all white. My mom is half black. So I'm white passing, as the left likes to say. Sure. Which means my identity is.
I've actually never heard that, but okay.
Really? You've never heard white?
I've never heard that.
So white passing is a term used by the left to describe people that, although they may have some sort of ethnic heritage,
they still look white. I understand what it means, but
for anyone who didn't,
I just haven't heard that.
Oh yeah, it's a big thing. It's a big thing. If you're like from Chile or Argentina and you look white, or you're from like Albania or something like that and you look white, like even though you're from an impoverished.
I certainly understand.
But anyways, going to Pembroke, I didn't have the same indifference a lot of people did to hearing a bunch of white kids say the N-word.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
But I also learned really early, and
did you hear it?
Oh, I heard it all the time. And I'm getting to that. Trust me. I learned at like a really young age. All right, I can get mad all day long. Right. And I can get into fights every day. Yep. Or I can just ignore these people. Yep. Who, in most cases, they're not doing it to be racist. They are. Sometimes they are.
Sometimes they are.
Sometimes they'll say,
sometimes
I hate so-and-so, they act like such a N-word, right?
You are correct.
That absolutely happens.
You're correct.
But a lot of the times, it's them singing rap songs, or saying, like, my N-word to their friend, or emulate... I see what you mean.
You know what I mean?
Emulating.
Yes.
But another part of why that happened a lot, I think, is we talk a lot about self-policing. Sure. Right? We didn't have a large ethnic... population at that school to the point where there were enough students of color, and I hate that term, but there weren't enough students of color to say, hey man, why are you saying that? If anything, there were like one or two kids in each grade. Like maybe one black guy, one Asian guy, one Hispanic guy, maybe a handful. But most of them either had the same opinion I did, which is I'm not going to waste my fucking time yelling at everybody about something that they don't even understand. Or they legitimately did not care.
That's right.
They legitimately did not care because they're their friends, or they were raised in an upper middle class background, or whatever reason, they legitimately didn't care. And I did know some other people that did care. And they said, I really do care, but I just choose not to hang out with people who say it. And like I don't associate with the people who do, and like they're gonna be racist, that's on them. And it didn't affect their lives very much. I think if we went back now, we'd see higher ethnic populations, not just in the school we're talking about, but in white New England high schools, right? I think we'd see a higher ethnic population. We'd see a higher trend towards critical theory. Sure. And
you're right.
And I think we would see less endearing use of it because it would be more frowned upon. But I think we would see more people using it as pushing back against
there's
the
some
PC.
Of that. So let me just for the sake of this argument, take that piece out. And let me continue to use the. So I do hear you, but that's part of it too. But let me just keep fleshing out this example specifically.
Right.
So, in American Honey, and again, this is how we go back to a class thing. And I have a little bit of insight into this. So again, it's really a story of poverty, and within the poverty spectrum, so you can use the N-word, You can use the N-word. If you are black, let's just talk about the rules. Right. Or...
what are the rules?
Yeah,
what are the rules?
If you are black, or if you are poor. And I say from anecdotal experience, it seems like the if you are poor is actually is more appropriate.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, it's also important that, like, it depends on what kind of enclave you come from and what kind of community. If you're
you should watch them. You should really watch them.
Should, so I can know more about.
Yeah. And I actually have a little bit of insight into a tiny surface level view of insight to this because so I did West Virginia work projects through my church for 7 years.
Right.
And I'm also I am a
what's that called? Wellspring?
White bread. I think that's one of them. Yeah. It's not. So I am as like safe. We had like there's like sort of fringe level. Danger in rougher communities that were sort of around fringe, but nothing really. But so my true exposure came from doing these Appalachian work projects and going into like deep Huntington, West Virginia, not even like Morgantown, West Virginia, like Huntington, Kentucky, Ohio border. Like meth, crack, trailers, true generational desperate poverty. And recognizing what those places look like, what they smell like, what they feel like, what the people who didn't leave, the people who stayed, and their sensibilities and their communities and their relationships. And that type of poverty and that type of community that is true, and even though it's white, is ghetto. So do you ever read? Jesus Christ! It's Thomas Sowell's Black Republicans and White. The point is,
I know which one you're talking
about. Yeah, the point is, it's about culture and it's about class. So this is as white as it gets.
Yeah.
But they live ghetto culture and they use the N-word, and even if they are and when they are surrounded by other black people, they are blessed with it.
Right.
Because it is a part of class language.
Right. So I mean,
and I'll go really quick. So the Morgan Wallen thing. So Morgan Wallen.
Yeah, no, you go.
So the Morgan Wallen thing is Morgan Wallen. He probably is middle class.
Yeah,
probably.
I have the assumption that most famous people start as at least middle class.
Yeah, not all of them. So he was not part of that. However, he is from Tennessee.
Okay.
He does at least surface level sympathize and commiserate with that working class poor ethic.
Yeah.
And in the context of the video, he's using it as in the way that like he's clearly not using it as that person's such an N-word, etc., etc.
Okay.
He's like, shut the door, my whatever. And clearly everyone around him is drunk.
Was he talking to a black person? Do we know?
No.
Okay.
We do know, and the answer's no.
Okay.
He was talking to another white person.
Yeah.
And that's what it was.
Okay.
So we have to treat that differently.
Yeah.
We just have to. And like it's almost like the Al Jolson conversation where it's like, would I do it? Do I like condone and there's a reason that word is different than like WAP, obviously. And there's a reason I'm using the term N-word, even though we all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And we all know that's a separate conversation, which is a little weirder.
There was a poll on, I don't remember where, I think it was like MTV or not MTV, one of the channels, and it said, what word do you think is more offensive? And it said, N-word.
Yeah.
And they spelled out the other one.
Yeah.
So it wasn't major news because they were allowed to swear.
Sure.
I think it was like N-word and then fuck.
Yeah.
And the top people were like, bro, you had to bleep one of them out. Like,
you
answered your own question.
Yeah.
One of them you couldn't write.
Yeah,
the other one you could. Why are you taking a poll?
And this is a weird one because I don't have a desire to say the end. Like I don't.
No.
And like, but I do, and I'm going against all my instincts on this podcast.
Yeah.
Because there's a part of me that's like, it is and I don't have any heritage or background, and I've never had that said to me in a disparaging way, and I don't know how it feels. It's like it's the South Park episode. I don't get it. When Stan says the token, I don't get it.
I don't get it.
So I agree with it.
And Token's like, I know.
Yeah.
It's like, I know you don't. But that's the point.
But what I do, I don't know what to do about it, but I have to communicate that I feel strongly about it.
Yeah.
Is the fact that I'm saying N-word
is
weird.
Yeah.
Like that's...
Yeah, I mean,
and we all know what I'm talking about.
I totally get it. And I think it's not... I see what you're saying, and I'd want to watch the movie, the Honey... American Honey.
It's also just, I'm a gay like movie art lover. I get deep into it. It's a wonderful movie.
Yeah.
It's so
no, I'll
good.
have to check it out.
It's just such an honest... the performances are good.
So the
cinematography's awesome. Yeah. The performances are great.
Yeah.
Like, so it's a great movie.
I'm into Shy, and when it came out a few years ago, I saw it pop up on my thing, and I'm like, I'll check it out.
It's also... The underlying themes are extremely conservative, by the way. Because it's actually about family and breaking the cycle of poverty, and about really traditional gender roles.
I'm sure Shia would disagree with you. He's kind of a lefty.
Here's the thing. Yeah. I don't think he would. I think he's that...
Oh, he's like a unicorn liberal.
Yes.
He's like a unicorn.
That's
cool.
Yeah,
I'm down with unicorn liberals.
I'm very serious.
Yeah.
I really think he is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. That's
and
fair
it's
enough.
Because he's actually avant-garde. Yeah,
that's
and it's
true.
why I respect
the
shit out of him. But anyway, yeah.
But I think it's more than just... It's not just being able to use the N-word. It's not just rooted in poverty. It also has to do with like your associations. So like...
it's all of it.
And I
actually,
think,
you are right. It's not poverty, it's association.
If
poverty drives your associations.
If there's an
this is a good point.
If there's an impoverished white community that doesn't interact with any black folks, and the youth don't hang out with black folks, and they don't really listen to that much black music, and they don't really ingest that much
the
black
whole movie
culture,
is set with the backdrop of black music.
Yes, trust me. I don't think this is likely. Right? I think more likely if you're a poor white person in a modern American community, you're gonna be exposed to non-white culture.
Yeah.
There's just no way to participate in music, movies, TV, or internet without participating in at least non-white culture.
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
But for argument's sake, let's say there wasn't, right? In rural West Virginia, a house that they barely have running water.
There are definitely places like that.
Yes. I don't think if they wanted to start using the N-word, I don't think impoverished black people would be cool with it.
You're right.
And I don't... I also don't think they'd be using it with an A.
You are right.
I think they'd probably be using it with an ER.
You are correct.
In a much more derogatory sense.
You're
now,
correct.
On the flip side of this example is someone we both know, whose name I won't say, but someone we knew who at a very young age went to prison a couple times.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And when after the...
It's a real
rough time, bad home life.
Yeah.
Dad had cancer. Mom...
He got institutionalized by his shitty life.
He had a very bad family life.
He had no chance.
Very little, no chance. Ended up going to prison a couple times for a few different reasons. And after the second time he got out, he said the N-word all the time.
Yes.
And he talked completely different. And I knew this guy from when I was 13.
Yeah.
And I still know him now. I haven't seen him in 4 or 5 years because he's been in and out of prison.
Well, he's like, who was your neighbor growing up, right?
We didn't live near each other, but we hung out in the same circles.
Got it. Right.
Like I was an okay kid that hung out with kind of shitty kids.
Yes.
He was a bad kid that hung out with bad kids.
Yes.
Right? So anyways, he got out, all of his mannerisms changed, all of his speech patterns changed. He said the N-word all the time, and he would say it in front of non-white people.
This is what I mean, yes.
Who would get in his face about it.
Oh, okay.
And this guy was not a big dude, but he never backed away from any fight.
You would never fuck with this person.
Yeah, he was not a big guy. He was not physically intimidating.
I am 6 feet tall, 220 pounds now, and I'm in very good shape, and I'm very martially adequate.
Yeah.
I would do everything I could to avoid a physical confrontation with this person.
And now that he's been in and out of prison a few times, he's bulked up a little bit. So he's like skinny strong.
But he's also, and he's small.
Yeah,
he's like,
what,
5'5"?
5'6" maybe?
140 pounds?
Nowadays, probably 140, 150.
And again, I weigh over 100 pounds in this. I would do everything in my power to not get in a physical altercation with this person.
He's a loon. He's crazy, right? And he would get in their face and he would say, I'll say whatever the fuck I want. You haven't been where I've been. You haven't done the things I've done. And in some cases, the people had, and they were like, "Oh, okay. You were in at so and so with so and so.
You get accepted.
You know A, B, and C.
Yep.
You know how to do this. You know how to do that. All right, we're cool." And I saw multiple times after he got out of prison where he used the N-word in front of black people, and nothing bad happened. So that was a function of him being associated with criminal elements of multiple races, right? And without getting into a socioeconomic discussion. I don't just think it was because he was poor. It's because he was poor.
Well, this is what I'm talking.
And then he went to prison.
Yep.
And he started associating with culture that was accepting of him using the N-word.
Correct.
So he went to prison in a prison that's run by Latin gangs and use the N-word all the time. And not that Latin gangs care; they're more racist than white people. Right. But I think it's an important distinction. Is you can't. It's not just being poor. It's being poor and then also becoming accepted by a poor community of ethnicity. Right.
So it's just it's just interesting when it comes to and again the circle around it. And so going back to Morgan Wallen, so Morgan Wallen, I'm sure uses that term. I'm positive the people around him. Now I'll also say he was like a darling for a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm almost
the new country wave is huge right now.
And I'm also positive that the music industry surrounds him with ethnic people and black people that have heard him use that word and have given him the green light to use it. I'm positive.
I don't know about that much. It's a possibility.
I'm very so I have that. So I have that exposure. The other exposure, and this is where it's more applicable to Morgan Wallen, and this is you're right. It is associate, and this actually proves your point, which is a better one about association. So I went to school outside of New York City, which was not it was not minority majority, but definitely 40% of the population of whatever 15,000 undergrad was black or Hispanic, etc. And I would tell you if I did, but it's just true that I didn't. I never used with the A at the end, just because my parents are kind of like, it's funny, they're
so you're a hard R guy.
Right. Yeah, no, I like the C words and the J words, J versions. Although my dad does say a funny joke with the J version, which is inappropriate. It's funny though.
Rich Brian was a famous Indonesian rapper. He made a hit song called Dat Stick when he was 17 years old.
Okay.
But his original name when he released Dat Stick was Rich Chiga.
Okay.
Because he's Asian.
Yeah.
And he released this video and it went viral. And like a bunch of rappers watched it. Like, this is the hardest motherfucker alive.
Yeah.
And he's like a skinny 17-year-old in a pink polo with a fanny pack and khaki shorts.
Yeah. Right.
But he had to change his name. As he got more famous and as he started like making deals, he was part of 88 Rising, which is like this big Asian music collective.
Yeah.
Before he joined, he had to change his name. Because he was just getting too much flack. Because he's like a Zoomer musician.
Right.
And like just the association was enough for him to have to change his name.
So I went to this school.
Yeah.
Middle to upper middle class.
Yeah.
And I heard, not in the academic sphere, so there was it's New York City. So everyone's got a little, so maybe part of it is everyone's got a little ethnicity in them, even if it's Jewish or you know what I mean?
Melting pot.
Yeah. Even if it's Jewish or if it's Puerto Rican or if it's... And I heard directionally both ways, two directional, the use of the A, N-word.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but I definitely heard it.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it was when black people and white people and mixed people were in the room all together. And it's like you understand the rules in there. And I never overheard the conversation of you shouldn't use that in that context. So you are right that it's not about poverty, it's about association. And it's just what I think is maybe it is fair is that we're taking these private conversations and environments that have their own set of rules, and then we're putting them in a place where the rules change and we're arbitering the rules onto a predetermined game, and then using it to penalize and take the rug out from under people.
Which doesn't serve to forward any kind of message or ideology. It serves to fracture the potential coalition you might have, right? And a lot of this ties into what we've talked about before with class warfare, right?
This is it really is class warfare.
It is class warfare.
That's all this is. And which is why I say it's like a poverty thing.
Yes.
It's like
So it is class warfare, and to abstract it a little bit, like if you look at ethnic enclaves in the United States in the 20th century, right? They were really racist.
Definitely.
They were very racist. Italians were racist.
So racist.
Irish were racist.
Yes.
Chinese are racist.
Yeah.
Jews are racist. They were all very, very racist for a very, very long time.
Yes.
Right? And like they were also all poor. And I think that if in back in the day you took a poor black person and a poor Italian person, and the black person called the Italian person a guinea, and the Italian person called the black person an N-word, or watch The Sopranos if you want some Italian versions of the N-word. I don't really think like much would have happened. Like unless
if they were both blind,
right, except for examples, and this is a very real thing. Like if that black person was in a white neighborhood that didn't like black people there, they might be accosted and assaulted. On the flip side, like my dad is a white guy who married a black lady. When he grew up, when he lived in black neighborhoods, he got chased home by black gangs. Right?
So that was my dad. My dad went to a high school in New York and it was the opposite of Pembroke. It was
same with my dad.
The opposite. And he was straight up, and it's almost it's interesting. It's like how he didn't get like radical,
right?
Like the American History X,
right?
Like how that didn't happen to him is a fucking miracle.
And my dad never like. I mean, my dad, he's about 70, and he still calls Asians Orientals. So, like, there's a bit of stuff that's just not going to change. But I never saw him be racist. I never saw him, like, look sideways at black
folks. And when he says Oriental, he doesn't mean racist.
No, he doesn't mean it in a derogatory way. But the point, he grew up because of just a general suspicion of everyone. And, it wasn't...
Yes, right.
It wasn't necessarily based on race, but he had different suspicions for different races.
Right.
Which is a function of like the times they grew up in.
And it's also this is also a general male to male thing. Men have to do threat assessment all the time.
Consistently.
Amongst one another.
Consistently.
Always.
You need like you have, and this sounds very black pilled, but it's not. It's the only way it's the only way you can actualize, like you have to assume at all times that the person you're about to run into is not here for your best interest.
Yeah, that's right.
That doesn't necessarily mean they're here to hurt you.
Correct.
But like that's one thing that like I was told when I was a kid.
You have to at least start there.
And that's one thing I feel like people should tell their kids is look, just because someone's being nice to you doesn't mean they really want to be your friend.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
And that's like a regular function of life. And I think if you took the 99% of people, 99, let's use men, we're talking about men. 99% of men from the last
I think it's a men thing.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's people in general. I think you'll see when I make the point.
You
could probably make an argument for either. 99% of men in the last, and this would probably be something that the left would use to say toxic masculinity, men are the problem with all of society and civilization. 99.9% of people over the last 1,000 years of men would be classified today as right-wing extremists.
That's right. Oh yeah, that's definitely true.
And they would be unbelievably violent.
Yeah, that's right.
If they saw what was going on today.
Correct.
They would be more violent than anything you saw on January 6th.
That's right.
They would be more violent than anything you've seen out of the Proud Boys.
Yep.
They'd be more violent than anything you've seen out of Antifa.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Yes. Yep.
So like the idea that we just like flipped a light switch and now everybody is into this neoliberal global homo propaganda where everyone's exactly the same and there are no differences between people and evolution is real but not like that.
Yeah, right.
And like, whites and white supremacy are responsible for all the evils in the world, but you're not allowed to take credit for all of civilization.
Yeah, that's right.
You're not allowed to take credit for science or medicine or technology or plumbing or agriculture or military tactics. You're not allowed to take credit for any of the good stuff, but you're responsible for all the bad stuff. So like it is important that we draw those lines because when talking about everyone being equal just means that you all have the same opportunities and protections under the law.
Quality, not
it doesn't mean everyone's exactly the same.
Equity is disastrous.
Equity is communism.
Yeah.
If they wanted to call it if they wanted to call it equality of opportunity, they would, but they don't.
But they don't.
They call it equity.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So it doesn't even get to a racial level. It doesn't. It's a really easy question.
Class.
And this is it is class, but I'll even get more abstract. This is another thing that I stole from Michael Malice. Is if you want to tell the difference in 2021 between a liberal and a conservative, ask them. And I'm going to ask you. It says, do you think some people are better than others?
Obviously.
Yes. You're a conservative. No doubt in my mind that you would answer that way.
Right.
A conservative will say yes.
Yeah.
A liberal will give you an explanation.
Yeah, right.
They'll give you a somewhat long-winded explanation.
Yeah.
And they won't actually tell you anything.
Sure.
Well, they'll tell you something. But
right. Yeah. Right.
So that's kind of where I'm going with this. Is like some people are better than others. Like I don't wake up in the morning and think I'm as good as Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
I wake up and think I'm equal to him, and that I should have the same protections under the law, and that I have the same opportunity or equality of opportunity. But I don't wake up and think I have the same IQ as Elon Musk.
So here's you know what? Here's where I will actually I'll put a bit of an asterisk next to it.
Yeah.
So and I'm actually pretty good at this. I'm pretty good at being direct at answering questions. Mm-hmm. When you posit the question to me, are some people better than others? I can simultaneously understand that is a really broad question, but I can also answer it. Mm-hmm. And I will answer in the affirmative, that yes, some people are better than other people. Now, my asterisk will be, and this gets goofy because every time I talk about religion, it gets goofy. Mm-hmm. But I think because I'm a Christian, and now the question is whether or not I'm a Christian because I have predisposed biological and genetic predispositions that would push me towards a Christian ethic as the justification for the line of thinking I'm about to articulate.
Okay.
See if you can follow that. Is I truly don't make moral value judgments on humanity across a spectrum at volume. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is I actually believe all human life has dignity.
Yes.
And I actually believe that from a moral, the fact that there is a hierarchy does not eliminate the moral obligation we have to identify each individual and their own sovereignty equally across that hierarchy. Mm-hmm. So when I hear and see something, and it's a good example you made, and I know what you were getting at.
Yeah.
But and I agree. It's like is Elon Musk better than us? Mm-hmm. I would say from across the spectrum of understandable and measurable qualities, the answer is yes. Mm-hmm. But from a dignity and sovereignty perspective, I would say no. Okay. And I'd also say it's okay, and I would further say the fact that hierarchy exists is a good thing, and it's a good thing that we are not all Elon Musk.
Right, and I think that's more of a worth based, like when you bring in
it is a worth based.
And so
let me just say this very quickly. It does not just, it is a much deeper and I think more fun conversation to have. However, I mean it in an earnest way that like the world needs ditch diggers too.
Yeah.
Like I don't see that as that's often used, and I don't know the origins of it, but it's often used in the context of because you are less than, that is your destiny.
Yeah.
Whereas I use it in the context of, maybe this is, again, my like Pollyanna, oh my stars goofiness. But I like actually believe that because we are a part of a dynamic system of humanity that changes and evolves over time, we do really fucking need ditch diggers. We do, and there's dignity in the human fabric across hierarchies.
Yeah.
And people who, and also you are not always a ditch digger because you live across time.
Yeah.
And sometimes in life you're a ditch digger. And sometimes in life you are, you're the one building on top of that ditch.
Yeah, I mean, we're removing the...
Does that make sense?
That does, to a degree, but, removing the divinity angle of...
And you can do that.
That's right. I totally get it.
Yeah.
I think it still stands because we're making it transforms into sort of a worth argument, right? And to say someone's better than someone else, that could mean they're better at digging ditches.
Yeah.
Right? You can recognize someone is better at digging ditches and say, well, I'm trying to build a grocery store. I don't need a ditch digger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
I think you can separate someone's proficiency at something from their worth
This is my point.
An individual scenario.
Absolutely. You know what I mean? Yeah. But that's also to say, and this gets goofy, and I will, as I will often do during our conversations, kind of contradict myself. It's funny. So Turtle Boy, who I fucking love, who's great. He'll at times there'll be like some some scumbag criminal, like whatever, killed this person, ran over this cop, blah blah blah, and
he gets a 4-sentence article in the paper.
Correct. Yeah. But then Turtle Boy will go around and say, and there'll be like the joke is like there'll be like a GoFundMe for him.
Yeah.
And it's like whatever they'll try to lionize this person.
Free my N-word.
Exactly. Yes. That didn't
my boy N-word. He raped 9 women, killed 4 people, robbed 2 liquor stores.
Yes. My boy didn't do nothing.
Cheated on his taxes. He started a Ponzi scheme. Just so no one thinks I'm saying racist crimes.
Yes. Right.
And defrauded a golf club.
But he didn't do anything. And the point is, Turtle Boy will kind of end this argument, which is shocking. It's a little shocking, and it's for dramatic effect. But he'll be like, the world would be better off if this person died. And he says that. He's like, he should have been killed by...
he got someone from our hometown, right?
Yeah. No.
So you remember he put up a video of a girl and her boyfriend ODing in their car with the kid in the backseat?
Yes.
That's a girl from our hometown.
I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't love that.
I don't love it either.
Yeah.
My chuckle is like a pain response. You know what I mean? And that's true for a lot of people. Like when I see things that are really uncomfortable and disturbing and even offensive.
Well, it's how we confront the truth.
That's right.
Humor is how we confront the truth.
The jester is the only one who can make fun of the king.
Absolutely.
Right?
That's right.
Like
that's exactly right.
But it's terrible.
Yeah,
it's awful.
That one's
but there has to, maybe not has to, but there should be a place for media like that.
For that. Yes. Yeah.
That shouldn't be like our standard.
Correct. Yes.
But that should be allowed to happen.
Yeah.
And if some guy wants to invest his own resources into writing stories like that, he should be able to do it.
Right.
And if people who also think the world would be better if these junkies were dead would want to pay to read it, go ahead.
Yeah.
And like more importantly, like we need that sort of vulgar, visceral, hot take.
Absolutely.
To help contextualize the conversation.
Absolutely.
Right?
Well,
because like what happens when you say, I don't really like the drug things, but maybe I don't want like clean injection sites. Like maybe maybe we should do something to clean up Mass Ave and Linnea Cass.
Because
people will say, what? Are you pro drug war? What are you with the government?
It's like no.
These people need help. And it becomes like a browbeating
that also doesn't help people.
It doesn't. It becomes a browbeating sympathy fest, which, I'm not even getting, but if you don't have Turtle Boy...
Correct.
You can say, well, no, dude, look at this guy who put up video of people ODing and said they should be dead.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't want needles on the ground.
Exactly.
Like, I know, whatever.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, I just don't want people panhandling for me every time I have to go to the doctor.
Well, and it's the corny like parent the enabling thing is fucking real.
Yeah.
It does not make people better. But anyway, so
I saw WBZ put up a poll on their Facebook that said, should Massachusetts have clean injection sites? And I saw a guy I knew from high school who commented, I literally don't care.
Yeah, right.
I literally don't care.
Yeah.
Let me go back to work.
Yeah.
Like I don't give a shit.
Yeah. That is fun. But it was when we talk about worth and stuff, and I still kind of don't. I get goofy with this, and I have to tease out how I really think because I see and I hear that court jester instinct, and I'm like, well, that's not that far. Like this guy, and I really do believe in redemption. I believe in people making changes, etc. But it's like. That it also is like funny. It's like no. The world's like this guy's a fucking violent asshole that has caused nothing but misery in his whole fucking life. This guy deserves it would be better if the cops shot this guy. Just fuck this guy. And there's a real part of me that's like, well, do I like totally disagree with that? Like I don't totally disagree with that.
Like that's like one of the wonderful dichotomies of man is we're simultaneously pursuing order and chaos.
Oh yeah, sure,
right?
Absolutely.
And like which side of the pendulum do you fall on? And like you can fall from side to side.
Yeah,
right. Like,
yes,
and like one side could be stronger than the other.
I always use this term. It's like I'm 51-49 on a ton of things.
Yeah. And I mean, as far as that goes, like, it'd probably be better if like that guy wasn't around. I think it's important. Obviously, no one's going to get executed for, like, robbing a store and being a heroin addict, right?
Yeah, right.
But, like, I have issues with capital punishment because I have issues with the U.S. justice system.
I'm against the death
penalty. So am I.
Yeah,
because, like, it's the old phrase, like, would you rather lock up, what is it?
100
would you rather
criminals...
let out 100 criminals to save one innocent life?
Correct.
Or would you take one innocent life to keep 100 criminals locked up?
Yeah,
I'm on the side to let the innocent guy go.
Me too.
Even if some criminals get... Because, like, if you support the death penalty, you're essentially saying, I think the U.S. justice system is right an overwhelming majority of the time. And when they're wrong, I don't care.
And I even go a little deeper than that.
Yeah.
Let's say 100% of the time that person is guilty and there are no bureaucratic mistakes.
Or whatever,
mistakes. I don't think the state has the power to take life.
I agree.
So I don't even get
to the practicality of
it. Yeah.
No, I agree.
And I'm not like listen, man, like, Joker Sarnaev, like, fuck that guy. You know, like, you know what I mean? And so I understand that, but it's like, I don't know.
I would much prefer, like, some kind of open hearing to him and his brother and their ties to foreign countries and their finances and travels. Like, maybe we could get some of that out in the open. But,
that's right.
Wait, we didn't. We got a sealed courtroom with sketches and
drawings
and no efforts made to and trust me, I get it. He was shooting at the cops and was a wanted terrorist. I get it.
Right.
But, like, they just let his brother bleed out for, like, 25 minutes.
Well, and his wife what happened to her?
Like,
she knew all of this.
Do you think maybe you could have got some actionable intel from these people?
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you are concerned with, like, how they did this. Yeah. That whole thing, man, is like, I don't know what the fuck happened.
Yeah.
My sister was with all of her friends and they were going to watch the marathon.
Yeah.
And, like, two of them were waiting at Starbucks. My sister says, I forgot my phone. I got to go back to my apartment. And she was on the way back when the bombs went off.
Yeah.
And her and her friends had tickets in the blast zone.
Yeah.
So, like, not within hurt, not death, but they would have got fucked up.
Yeah.
Concussive wave, concussion, shrapnel, whatever.
Yeah.
And that made me, like, look into the whole thing.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't know enough. It looks like they did it, but I want to know how'd they do it, who funded them, and who were they talking to. Was the FBI involved?
I know,
Was these one of these wonderful fucking plans where the FBI tells people where they can get ammonium nitrate in empty vans?
Right.
And then things got out of control.
Yeah.
Right. I don't really know what happened. That whole thing's fucky.
Yeah.
Even still, I don't think he should be executed.
Right.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Right. So it's it gets that gets goofy.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, you want to end there?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Good job.
Solid hour and a half.
It was.
Yeah, that was a good one.